First half pathetic, the second dynamic, chalk and cheese. Whether the second half formation was a stroke of genius from Thomas Frank or forced by injury, it changed the game. Does Thomas get the credit? Xavi. When the going got tough, he showed up. We didn't buy bench fodder like Eze or huff and puff merchants like Gibbs White. We got a Rolls Royce. And Solanke. Now, I'm an atheist, but thank God for Solanke and that goal. Palhinha was possessed, Archie looked like a veteran, and Three Lungs Gallagher was omnipresent. But then there's Flappy. He went down like a giant Redwood for the first goal. Then he pulled off a worldie. But do we really need this stress? We've got some new features today. Room 101 will be binning off our pet hates. We'll dissect the week's most idiotic tweets, so many to choose from. And we'll have a little fact or fiction test for our guests. Finally, we'll look ahead to Manchester United. Will we get the chalk or the cheese? Strap in. It's Nice One, Cyril.
Nice one, Cyril.
So, welcome to Nice One, Cyril. I'm Simon Lipson. With me today, we have, of course, all the way from Greenwich, Judy Welch, all the way from Crouch End, Kevin Acott, and all the way from somewhere in Cornwall, Chris Askham. So, welcome one and all. Let's have a little chat about this City match. Quite an interesting game. Julie, I mentioned in the intro there, chalk and cheese, first half, second half. I know which one I preferred. How did you view that game?
Well, when Semenyo's goal went in, I thought, shall I stick it out? And then when Romero didn't come back for the second half, I thought, fuck it, I'm going to walk the dog. But I stuck around and it was just fantastic. I cannot begin to tell you how fantastic it was after all these soul-sapping weeks to actually see Spurs playing. And that second goal of Solanke's, I mean, we haven't had an iconic goal since about 1842. So clever, a scorpion kick. You have to be an elite player to score that. I never thought that Solanke was that sort of player. I thought he was just a good book standard striker. But he is a genius. And, you know, we could have won it. I mean, we didn't, obviously. There was a slight element of hope that kills at the end, but it was just great.
It was. It's an extraordinary turnaround. And given that, Kevin, we had Palhinha, who's not really a central defender, and Dragusin, who hasn't played for a year, in central defence. And yes, OK, Dragusin made a mistake for the second goal, but it really was stirring stuff, which always begs the question, why the fuck can't we do this for an entire match? There was a change of formation. We went from 5-3, oh, I don't know, 5-2-3 or something like that, to 4 at the back, and then, well, I don't know if it was a 3-3 or a 2-2-2 or a... Who cares? It doesn't really matter. But there was a change of formation, and we don't really know what happened to Romero at half-time, but it just seemed to inspire an extraordinary turnaround.
And I don't know whether that's about tactics, about some superb sort of Churchillian speech by Frank, you know, at half-time, or I don't know. Something changed, and it felt like what had changed was their confidence, their energy level, their determination. And I think Simons was a big part of that, whether his improvement was a result of the rest of the team really going for it or inspired the rest of the team. I think suddenly we believed that we could score and we could create. And, you know, it is frustrating. It's so frustrating that we can't do it. Like you say, we can't do it for two halves in the same match. But yeah, that's why we go to watch football. And, you know, I said that to my daughter after, and she was buzzing and I was buzzing. It felt like we'd won, which, you know, obviously we hadn't, but we all thought it was going to be 3 or 4 at sort of half time. I was absolutely certain we were going to get hammered. And for the first time for a long time, I was thinking, I'm not going to stay. I'm going to go. I think I mentioned before, I've only ever left one match early. And this was as close as I've got to doing it again.
Well, Lee Brown of this parish did drop a note onto our WhatsApp group at half-time saying, I'm thinking of going. And I said, don't go, because Thomas is going to pull off an extraordinary turnaround with a tactical change. Now, I don't have any second sight, but that's what happened. It was incredible. Chris, we had some stellar performances, really, from some of our boys. I want to talk about Simons first. Kev mentioned him just there. Brian Clough said of Glenn Hoddle that he had moral courage because he would take the ball in the sort of helter-skelter of a match and take it and do his thing and play his game and show his skills regardless, and it took moral courage. And I thought there was something of that in Simons' performance yesterday. He wanted the ball all the time. Nothing would deter him from going on his dribbles, playing balls through. And of course, he created the first goal for Dominic Solanke. And I just thought, yes, this is what we've all been seeing glimpses of blossoming. And it was something to behold.
It was. Wasn't a surprise to me. I think he's always got this, and my big concern for him, a bit like Glenn really, he hasn't got the players around him to play with. He needs to play to them and play off them. And I don't think he has the calibre of player around him to actually do that. If you look at our overall performances, not just yesterday, but our overall performances, most of the team, most of the time, are like traffic cones. There's no movement. There's no desire to find a space to receive the ball and do something with it, unless you're going to knock it straight back to either that person or Flappy at the back. And I feel that we are doing some really good players a hell of a disservice for not having this approach. My main Frank issue is that, generally speaking, he's too timid. He's too reluctant to let good players play and express themselves until we're boxed into a corner. And every time we've had these first halves like yesterday, which was unbelievably poor, we've come out better. But I believe it's because he's been forced into it. If we went in at 2-0 at half-time, would we have changed the modus operandi in the second half? My guess is no. And there was some comments attributed to Pep to the effect of, yes, well, we know how they're going to play. They're going to sit low and they're going to soak it up and then they're going to try and hit us on the break. And to be honest, he was just describing Brentford. And I just feel that Frank's, for me, his big issue is he's too determined to hold on to what he's already got without going. And we did yesterday. We went for the jugular. And of course, we exposed ourselves a little bit as well. And thankfully, they didn't take their chances. But then neither did we. And I still come back to this business of Xavi. Great player, fantastic potential, but he needs others to play with.
I mean, let's not forget that Glenn Hoddle spent a few seasons trying to play with Colin Lee and Ian Moores and Jerry Armstrong and Chris Jones. And, you know, he bless him, he kept at it. You know, he kept trying to find them, and then he thought, fuck it, I'll just shoot. And that's how he ended up with 20-odd goals a season for a while. Julie, I think this is your department, okay? Flappy. Now, he made an absolutely brilliant save from Cherky. He flipped at it and it went for a corner, although the ref didn't give it. But the shot from Cherky, he was quite wide, he was quite a long way out, and it all seemed to happen in slow motion. I know it was a good strike, but I just felt he wasn't quite positioned in the right place, Flappy. He seemed to just go down late.
It's interesting because, you know, those sort of amazing saves he makes, he has terrific reaction, but he's very vulnerable to that sort of, well, you said it seemed like slow-mo. He's half a great goalkeeper and he's half Bobby Mim, basically. I don't know how that works, but, you know, great reactions a lot of the time, especially when it's close-in stuff, but no reactions at all, or very late reaction, or just sort of... Sometimes you see the ball coming towards him and you just get this sense of hopelessness. He's never going to do anything. He's not going to save it. He's a bit of a mystery, isn't he?
He has been beaten by long shots more often than is healthy because, a goalkeeper has more time to get ready for the long shot. As you say, Julie, his reaction saves are great, but for some reason the ball seems to go past him from distance too often. Kev, let's have a little chat about Dominic Solanke. Now, we said, I think, on our mini-pod the other day that he is the difference maker, really. What he gives us up top is a certain kind of technical proficiency, power, strength. What we've never really seen from him is this sort of instinctive finish. He's a decent finisher, but not a great finisher. But those were two great goals. I'm not sure people want to attribute the first goal to him, but I think it's his goal. And he beat a man and cut inside and scored. And then that second goal, that's just out of, it's a fantasy goal. But, he knew the ball was behind him. He got ahead of it. And he knew exactly what he was trying to do, and he pulled it off.
Yeah. I mean, I've watched that goal now 274 times, I think. And
Is that all?
I know. I had to do a bit of work in between. And I kept thinking, is it accidental? Is it just a fluke? Is it just a freak thing? And no, I'm 99% sure no. He intended that. It was just a moment of, like Julie said, genius. And very, very few people would have scored from that position in that way. But he is so important. He's so important to us. And I think I, maybe like quite a few people, had not valued him enough before. He always felt like, he's all right. He's all right. If we had a proper number 9 up there, he'd be, great as a sort of the second of two players up front. But he's changed the way we play, and he's someone who can score, which is, quite important and quite rare, I think, in our team over the last couple of years. So, and he's intelligent, and you get the sense that other players respect him as well.
What I like about him, Kev, also, I agree with all of that. He's got immense qualities. He's also selfless and egoless. And I think that makes him an interesting proposition because he's a star striker. He's a star for us. But he's none of that big I am shit going on. Actually, Chris, you'll see that big I am shit with Richarlison, who is half the player. How dare you be cocky, Richie? You don't merit it. And I know he's scored some fantastic goals this season. I don't want to take too much away from him. But part of the reason that Solanke looks so great is A, he's very good, and B, we have been served up so much crap up top. Tell has been in the middle, which he's not a central player. Richie, we've spoken about Richie, and Moani. And watching those three toil, and then suddenly watching a guy like Dom, who can play fucking football. I mean, I know it sounds ridiculous to say, but he can play, and it makes a huge difference. And I think he might be the difference between struggling and safety.
I think you're right. The thing that you get from Solanke is 100% commitment. He will put himself in position to try and get the ball, try and bring others into the game if he can. He will give himself the opportunity of scoring a goal. We don't feed him well, but there again, we don't feed Rishi well either. So all that's a bit of a problem overall. But he is, by comparison to anything else we've got, head and shoulders above them. I think Frank has been reasonably good at limiting his appearances and his time on the team. And I'm hoping he's doing that for the right reason, which is to bring him in and keep him there because his fitness is such that it will allow that. The issue otherwise is, again, who has he got to play with? And we are incredibly light. You're right, Tell, I think, is a really good player, and we don't use him, I don't think, enough or well enough. And Kolo Muani, I'm afraid my jury's still out on him. I think he shows a great deal of promise, but it's all a bit hit and miss. And we need, with the position that we're in, we need people we can depend on. And we've got a couple at the back. I mean, that first half was unbelievably poor, and I can't look at anyone else except Frank for setting it up that way. And then when he says, "Oh well, we made some changes," if you'd done it properly, we wouldn't have needed the changes.
Yeah, we're kind of inviting teams onto us when we set up like that, and it's that typical sort of Frank, let's worry about them rather than let them worry about us, which is, in the end, how it turned out, because we did make them worry about us, and it was interesting to watch City, I won't say capitulate, but they certainly looked shaken by us coming at them like that. Their passing went to hell. We won all of the tackles, and it was, until about the last 10 minutes when we seemed to kind of sit back a bit and hang on to the draw. So, Julie, I wanted to quickly ask you about your mate Palhinha, because I know you like him. Sensible haircut, good-looking man, and a very essential part of the fabric, I think. And I think we ought to not be faffing about. We ought to make sure we secure him at the end of the season. He was in central defence. We had an extraordinary mess. I mean, in the second half, Dragosino hasn't played for a year, Palhinha, who's a midfielder, and yet I felt that actually gave us some impetus. Palhinha played like a man possessed. We've talked about this before. His tackling, his desire to win the ball, and he's good enough to play it off to the next guy. It was a wonderful performance.
It's very interesting, actually, because they were actually better without Romero. I hate to say this because I think Romero is a wonderful player, but we were quicker without Romero. I mean, Romero does tend to sort of hang on to the ball a bit, before he decides what he's going to do. Whereas Palhinha just sort of got on with it. He and Gallagher were very good in combination. And going back to Solanke, that second goal, I think it was the ball from Gallagher which went in for Solanke to do his bit. So I think, although we've had a rather kind of underwhelming transfer window, the bloke that they did buy is actually going to be super for us.
Glad you brought Gallagher up, because I was going to ask Kev about this. Written off after 25 minutes by Gary of Harlow, and what a waste of money, 35 million, and we sold our top scorer. Okay, so he's only played a handful of games, and he wasn't going to suddenly go into into central midfield and become the next great thing. He's got to settle into a losing team or a struggling team. And I thought what we saw yesterday against City was the sort of thing that we saw him doing at Palace. And he's also good enough to put in a cross like that, having won the ball and got down the wing, and he looked up and it was a really clever cross. I think he's a huge plus.
I think it took me about 100 re-watches of that goal to even notice the cross. But there's a point where he just looks up and crosses it to Solanke, and it was almost perfect. And that's what he seemed to be doing from what I could see all the way through. He was looking around, he was looking up. Again, an intelligence, a different sort of football intelligence, I think, to Xavi stay. But that drive and that energy and that intelligence was just so, we need it. And similarly with Palhinha, I think I feel like we're in danger of being really positive about our squad now. So I think we need to be a bit careful. But
stop yourself, Kev.
Yes, but Simons, Palhinha, Gallagher, Solanke, those are four decent players, and more than decent players. And if we can get the best out of them, then I think we'll comfortably get 12 this year. So.
There's one player I want to add to that roll of honour, and that's Archie Gray. Chris, I thought Archie, he came in at right back. We know he's played there a lot for Leeds. He's played everywhere for us, and left back and central defence and midfield. So we know he's a versatile kid. But rather like Solanke, he has no ego. He's selfless. He works his socks off. But He's really talented. He's quick. He's technically good. And again, it's so easy, isn't it, to dismiss Archie because he's not flashy. But he always does. I know it's a horrible cliche, but he does a job.
He belies his years. He is intelligent, and we don't have that many intelligent players in the team. He really is. He's a bit of a thinker. He looks at, he appears to anyway, look at a bigger picture rather than just the ball that's in front of him or the player that's immediately alongside or whatever. He suggests to me that he will be a Rolls-Royce player. Again, same provisos. He's going to need better players around him for us to be able to bring him out and develop him or allow him. Well, I don't think we will develop him. He will develop himself. And he needs that. We all need those better players around us. But he is somebody who will take a wider view and see what he can do to the benefit of the team, rather than making a cracking pass and standing back and admiring it like one or two others of ours do, or don't even get it past a guy who's standing 4 feet in front of them. So I think he's a terrific player, and I think he will only get better, and it's down to us to give him the platform to do that and develop, and it's also down to us to give him the environment to keep him, because otherwise he'll just be on his bike to somebody else for an awful lot of money, which no doubt will please Enoch or whatever branding they're using this week, and they'll take the money and run.
I mean, I suppose the question with him, Chris, is what's his best position? And he's put in some very good performances in midfield. He's a good defender. He's really such a good all-rounder. I wouldn't play him up front, but he's got so many skills to offer. Where's his best position? And I suppose that will determine, to a certain extent, how often he gets selected and where he fits in. Julie, let me come back to you, because you love talking about our sixth form college cool guy manager, and we talked about the change at half time. So Romero went off for mysterious reasons. The change he made was to bring on a midfielder, Pap Sarr, and as we've observed, it was a sea change. It was a sudden dynamism in that side. Then later on in the game, he brought on Tell and Odobert. So you could argue that Thomas Franks had a Damascene conversion and decided that attacking is the way to go. Or you could argue that these were the last two senior players left on the bench and he's going to stick them on because everyone else is tired.
It's very difficult. I mean, what was good was that he didn't look like, a haunted draw doll at the end of the match. Like he was getting the sort of matted hair and haunted eyes. It was just terrible to see him, and he actually looked quite cheerful. It's a bit like, with him, it's a bit like a game of marbles, isn't it? Just sort of chucking another one on and hoping it hits. I really don't know what his plan is. I thought that when he came, although I wasn't particularly sort of overwhelmed by his appointment, I was told and given to understand that, he was very good at tactics. I don't think he is. That's the main thing. And Pochettino wasn't terribly good at tactics, but he was very good at the sort of touchy-feely stuff. And he had a group of very promising young players and a couple of oldies who were also going to develop into really good players under him. I'm just not convinced by Frank. Nice guy. I think that he has probably done enough now not to get the tin tack till, for at least the rest of this season. Do we think that they'll say goodbye to him, then the final whistle goes at the end of the season, or are they going to stick with him? Are they sort of pretending he's the new Arteta?
Yeah, God help us. Look, I mean, there was a picture of him someone posted on social media where he was post-match clapping the fans and smiling, and someone put next to that, "Who do you think you are, fucking smiling? You're fucking shit. You're rubbish. And you shouldn't be smiling. You should fuck off." And I thought, well, okay, that's a point of view. And I wanted to just quickly talk about this. There was this movement. I don't know if it's Change for Spurs or I'm not quite sure what they call themselves. And they are busy telling everyone how they should behave and what they should do at football matches. You see, for me, I go to football matches to support my team. That's it. It's very, very simple. And I don't care who they're playing. I don't care about the circumstances surrounding the club. At that point, I'm only invested in the team's performance. But Kevin, the idea that we would all get up and go, and then to have people reprimanding those who didn't leave, you just think, what is the matter with these people? They've lost sight of what we're supposed to be there for, which is support the team. You have your views about the club, but fuck's sake, I don't know. I despair sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of get the frustration with the board and with the owners, with the years and years of underachievement. I feel that, like we all do, that frustration. I had no intention of going at 75 minutes or whatever it was. Interestingly, I didn't see anyone go on 75 minutes. I don't know if anyone did, because, in terms of a plan, it's not a great plan, is it? We'd got back to 2-2. We were starting to look like we were going to beat Man City potentially. And I suspect no one was wanting to leave at that point. I'm slightly torn. I would not have gone, but I get the frustration. What have we got now? We've got 25 odd minutes to see whether our owners are actually going to, reach into their pockets and produce something wonderful. It's not going to happen. The other part of that is, if they sell up, who are they going to sell up to? And how do we then adjust in the way that Newcastle have adjusted or Man City have adjusted to those new owners who almost certainly are going to be representing some unpleasant regime? And, it's complicated, I think. Like I said, I wouldn't have gone on 75 minutes regardless of how the match was going, but I sort of get it.
Yeah, I mean, me too. And we're all frustrated. And here we are sitting here. The only person additional to a young Brazilian fullback and the admirable Gallagher we brought in is some little boy called, was it Robert Wilson from Hearts? Can't get in the Hearts first team.
James
But James Wilson. Thank you, Julie. And he's now joined the ranks of those who will go out on loan and never be seen again. So it doesn't seem as though we're going in hard for any big names. We'll keep track of that. Where are we? We've got about 23 minutes as we speak of the window. I tell you what I'd like to do now. It's a new feature for the podcast, because I'm a great fan of idiotic tweets. And what I want to do is put an idiotic tweet to each of you, and I may ask you to support it, or I may ask you to diss it. But let's just see. This is for you, Chris, and it leads on from where we were. This is a tweet. I'm not going to name names, by the way. If you're going to the game today, please let the owners and manager know how we feel. Don't just put money in their pockets and be keyboard warriors on socials. Now, Chris, you travel 300 miles each way. You're a diehard. How did you feel about not putting money in their pockets and letting them know how you feel?
I think collectively there has to be an awareness of how people feel by now. Team gets booed off every first 45 minutes. Manager, as Judy said, looks like some sort of haunted supply teacher more often than not. I will support the team for as long as I feel that I'm able to. I don't want anybody else telling me what to do with what little money I have got. If it got to the point that I couldn't attend the games that I do attend in order to keep my season ticket. Now, this is my big bugbear, is that one now has to attend a minimum number of home games in order to keep, in inverted commas, your season ticket. One that you may have had for, in my case, more years than I care to mention. And if you don't, and you don't come up with a good reason, excuse, explanation, they will reserve the right to take it away from you. Now, whether or not that applies to tickets that are passed on to friends and family, or they are then resold on the ticket exchange thing, I don't know. And that's never been made clear to me. So that's my big fear. My big fear is that I have to keep travelling 600 round miles to see a game of football. And then I've got to say, oh, God, when the hell, can I go again? Can I afford to go again? Can I afford another 12 hours in the car or 9 hours on the train or whatever it may be? Because I want to keep my season ticket that I've had for donkey's years.
It's interesting you say that, Chris, because whoever owns the 2 seats next to me never turns up. I always get 2 different people every week. And just as a little side issue, I had a bloke next to me for the City match, and he's what I call a pointer. He's always got to point at everything that's happening on the pitch. And I'm thinking, what about the power of words? Because he's with his friend and he's pointing. Let me. And of course, it's not just the pointing that is in the corner of my eye. I can see this hand going out every 5 seconds to point at something. It's the fact that he's blocking the pitch. He's blocking. I can't see when he's got his hands up. I can't see that side of the pitch. What's he pointing at, Julie? You're a wordsmith. Come on, couldn't you just say that is Palhinha in central defence? Not I'm pointing at that guy. Anyway, he did that for half, and then, like all good tourists, he left for his drink at 37 minutes and didn't return till 58 minutes and went home at 70 minutes. So there we are. That was my experience. The pointer. Now, Julie, here's one for you. Here's a stupid tweet for you. Obviously, I love Tottenham, but until Frank is gone, and assuming we don't get relegated, I will want us to lose every single game.
Well, of course, the person who wrote that tweet is obviously, incredibly influential and important and has at least 10 followers. And yeah, absolutely. If you have that well of support behind you, to use a cliche, the world is your oyster. Are there actually people out there who really believe these sentiments? Or is it just, you're just going for engagement?
I can no longer tell you the provenance of that tweet, but suffice it to say that he's not the only person to tweet about losing in order to achieve an objective. Either, getting rid of Enoch, getting rid of Frank, getting rid of everybody. Let's lose, because hit them in the pockets. And on that note, Kev, I've got a perler for you. And I will just say this appeared on the feed of a well-known podcast. I won't name names. And it said, just in, there are thought to be clauses in contracts which would lower wages in the event of relegation. But the prospect is not, that's in capital letters and bold, is not being considered at Tottenham Hotspur.
Right.
So they're not thinking about the money they'll save by going down.
I think the whole of social media is about just coming up with some words, isn't it, really? And putting them together, and then, like Julie says, for engagement or for whatever reason. So that's a sort of negative. That's actually stating a negative, isn't it? That's sort of saying that we're not doing something that may or may not be done at other clubs. No, I don't want to give it. I don't want to give it any attention at all. So really, it's just. I mean, personally, yes, they should all be fined huge amounts of money if we go down. But from Frank down to the team, but no, it's no.
It would seem the most perverse strategy.
Yes.
Well, look, you know what? Players' wages are going way down if we go down. I mean, that makes sense. But I tell you what, we're not going to consider it yet. Okay, let's just hang on to that till towards the end of the season. Now, I've got one that I rather like. This is somebody tweeting: shit owners, shit CEO, shit medical department, shit manager, shit players. The only good thing about this club is the fans. I think it's a huge omission there. What about the stadium? That's an open goal. Anyway, let's try something else with because we're experimenting today on nice one, Cyril. So look, this is stat or fiction. I'm going to put something to you, and I want you to tell me if it's true or not. Okay. So, Chris, In 2007, Carlos Tevez was so close to joining Spurs that he'd already completed a secret photo shoot in the new kit. But the deal collapsed 3 hours before the deadline because of a dispute over his image rights involving a brand of Argentinian biscuits. That true?
No, I think it was Frey Bentos, not biscuits. Oh, it's Spurs, of course it's true.
Well, in fact, the interest was real, but the biscuit dispute is a classic bit of footballing urban legend. Hey, come on. I actually quite like your Frey Bentos there, so I'm going to... Yeah, I'm going to listen. You get 7 out of 10 for that. Julie, Raphael van der Vaart was substituted so often under Harry Redknapp that he eventually started leaving the stadium in his full kit and driving home before the final whistle had even blown. Is that true?
So I'm going to have to go for fiction.
Okay, well, see, you're half right, half wrong, because he would shower and change and then drive home before the match finished. So that was, and that's very Van der Vaart, that for me. Very Van der Vaart. A final one, Kev. This is a belter for you. After Gareth Bale's breakout hat-trick against Inter Milan in 2010, the club shop sold out of Bale jerseys, so they began heat-pressing his name onto goalkeeper shirts and selling them as limited edition outfield kits. What do you reckon?
Yes, that sounds.
Chris thinks that's true.
No, yeah. I agree with Chris. I think that sounds very likely and very Spursy.
When Jurgen Klinsmann signed for Spurs, so many shirts were sold with his name on the back that they ran out of ends.
That's a great one. Well, actually, it turns out that's not true. They didn't do that, but it's so plausible. I think we're going to call it true. Look, I tell you what. There's one other thing we wanted to have a go at today. Do you want Julie's suggestions? We want a room 101, your footy 101. Let's start with you, Julie. Just give me one thing you would consign to the scrap heap of nonsense.
I think I would consign The Game Is About Glory to the scrap heap because it's so old. It's not about glory anymore. For us, it's sort of, hoping for the best. I just think it was said by Danny Blanchflower, God knows how many years ago, 40, 60, something like that. I think, can't we come up with a new motto? Audio or whatever it is. Or what is it? To dare is to do in Latin? I can't remember. Audere et facere or something like that. They're both terrible. Why do we need a motto anyway? But I got so irritated by, all The Game Is About Glory shtick now, because, as I say, it's not about glory anymore. It's about money. And I think the ghost of Danny Blanchard has been with us for a little bit too long. We're in a new century, for heaven's sake. Let's have something else. I'm putting that in room 101. It's pretty.
All right. Well, look, that's a nice one. Kev, have you got a room 101?
I was just thinking, it's the bloke a few rows behind me, and he changes voice, he changes, what he says every year or so. There's always a different bloke a few rows behind me. The current one is he swears unnecessarily at an opposing player. But what he does is he throws in his vast knowledge of football into the swearing. So he'd say like, "Oh, fuck off, you useless, twice divorced ex-Wolves bastard." And you think, yeah, you've just proved that you know stuff that none of us know, but you've sworn at the same time. And there was another one. You only scored 7 goals last season, you Palace wanker. And 2 of them were against Accrington Stanley. And you think, what? I don't know whether the swearing is the point of him being there or the showing off his arcane knowledge of football. But he's also got an incredibly annoying voice. So he's the worst bloke a few rows behind me I've ever experienced.
Yeah, he's going in the bin. What have you got for us, Chris?
Alan Smith's commentaries. They're
Yes.
boring, never insightful, monotonous, always spouts the bleeding obvious, and they need to go. That's it. The fact he's always on our games is unfortunate too, but I mean the content is absolutely dire. He's, in my view, he's the commentator's equivalent of our first half performances. There we are.
Surely no commentator is that bad. Well, actually, no, Peter Drury. I would join you in that particular consignment to the bin by talking about Peter Drury, but we'll come back to that. This is my bugbear. When a team loses and one of the players tweets, "We go again." Now, look, just say, "We were shit. I'm embarrassed. I'm going to stay in my house for the next 3 days. I don't deserve anything else." Because, look, "we go again" it's taken as read. You're going to play the next game and try and be better. Don't say "we go again." That's going in the bin. All right, look, I tell you what. I feel like those. What do you think of those features, Julie? You know, the 101, the shit tweets, the other bit I can't remember. Is it
I think
we'll pursue?
they're the James Milner of item for a pod. We keeps coming back, goes on for years. Keep them.
Fantastic. Oh, look, I've come up with a pod equivalent of James Milner. I'm so proud. Now, what else have we got for you? I tell you what I'm doing right now as we speak. It's 6:53, and I'm popping over to Twitter. Latest, and there is no latest. There's no latest news at all that I can see. But apparently, James Wilson (brackets 18) is the most lethal striker from Scotland right now. Then says under that, Arsenal have opened concrete talks to sign him. So I'm guessing that was an optimistic Arsenal fan who originally tweeted that. And we've got him. We've got that lethal striker. And I'm watching him score a goal on a plastic pit with no spectators. So he must be very, very good. It's exciting to have that. But as we speak, I can't see. Just bear with me because I'm scrolling. No, he's the last name mentioned. There was some talk, wasn't there, of Akliou?
Yeah, the bloke who sounds like a sneeze. Tottenham will not be signing Magnus Akliou.
Didn't want him anyway.
Who is he?
Whoever he is.
Yeah.
I tell you what, let's draw a line under the transfer window. It never really happened. Let's have a quick chat about our next match. Kevin, we're playing Man United. Now, as I often say, and for some reason this seems to happen to us, resurgent Man United. I wouldn't have minded playing them before Carrick turned up, but they've now beaten Liverpool, they've beaten City, and they struggled their way to, well, mind you, they beat a team up in the top half at the weekend. How do you see this one going?
Oh, no, I don't know. I mean, I think if we can continue playing as we did in the second half against City, then we've got a chance. They're still a little erratic. They've had the new manager bounce. I think that's a bit unfair. There's obviously a little bit more to it than that. They've got a more than decent squad. They've got a decent team, and I think he knows what he's doing. Carrick, actually, without that much experience, but we're capable. We're capable of being. It's a silly thing to say, isn't it? We're capable of being any team, really, if we click in both halves, like we did yesterday, and particularly one that's still a little bit vulnerable, and they are. So
okay, Chris,
a draw. I'm going for a draw.
Be happy with a draw. Carrick, he's no mug. They've clearly bought into him and what he's doing, and I don't know whether he's doing much, but he's getting a tune out of Mainu now, isn't he? That the other one didn't get. It's still probably early days. If we can't get a draw, well, no, I won't say if we can't. This is our best chance of getting some points before they really bed down. Yes, I agree with Kev. They are a little bit vulnerable. For goodness sake, they scraped 3-2 but then they also beat Manchester City and we didn't. So
Okay.
I think I'd be happy with a draw. I'm never happy with a draw. I want to win every game, but on recent performances, if we came away with a point, I'd say, yeah, okay,
All
well
right.
done.
And I mean, it's worth mentioning, Julie, that we are on a sparkling run of 4 matches without defeat. So, not many teams can boast that. And the fact that we've only drawn we've drawn 2 and beaten 2 crappy German teams. Let's not go too deeply into that. But it's a toughie, isn't it? What's your thinking about this match?
Well, if you sort of go by the numbers rather than sort of feelings, new manager bounce doesn't really exist. Just things kind of right themselves, level themselves out. So the new manager bounce might just be, a blip, something like that. I just got this feeling that we'll be okay against them. Might not be a win, but I think with Solanke just coming back to his glorious best, then we got a chance. They will have gained confidence from the second half against Manchester City. You got to be in it to win it and all that cliche stuff. I don't think it would be a disaster. Would I be happy with a draw? Yeah, of course. I'm so crap at predicting things that we'll probably get stuffed 6-1 or something like that. But I don't think we will, actually. Not sure what the defence is going to be like because, of course, Danso has now got one of those sort of really stupid injuries. He's snapped a ligament in his toe. I didn't even know you could do that. But anyway, so Danso is going to be out for a bit. So let's just hope the rest of the defence holds up all right and Mickey doesn't have a hamstring saga going on. I think we should be all right, actually.
All right, well, optimism. I like that. I mean, if we go with the 3 at the back, I don't know who the third is. Probably Archie. Or is it Janai Byfield? Who knows? But I just hope that he doesn't go there worrying about what they're going to do to us. We've got plenty of weapons. Let's go and use them. But I still think a draw is the best we can hope for, and I'll plump for that. Now, well, that's it. We're kind of done for today. Don't forget you can follow us on Twitter at NiceOneCyrilPod. We've got a website. Go to we've got a website, www.niceonecyrilpodcast.co.uk. There are photos on there of all of us, and if you compare that, you probably can because you support Spurs, so you've seen all the horror. So get on the website. There's some info about all of us there, and we are on all across social media. And why not subscribe to the podcast on the platform of your choosing? And by the way, all of our episodes are available on the website. There we are. That's it. We're done. My thanks to Chris Askham, to Kev Acott, Julie Welch. We'll be back on Friday, Kev and I, with a little bite-sized chunk for you. And till then, come on you Spurs.
Nice one, Cyril.